Hello and welcome to another episode of the Young Tongues podcast. My name is Barbara Fountain and I am the founder and CEO of the Young Tongues, a peer-to-peer support group for young tongue cancer patients. Welcome to a new episode with myself, Barbara, and my lovely co-host, Steph. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
You will have noticed, sadly, no Jamie today. She's not feeling very well, so we will do our best to bring some humour into this in Jamie's absence. I'm not quite sure how we're going to cope, Steph.
I know. We'll soldier on, though.
Indeed. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's a rainy day here. So, you wake up and it's rainy and kind of chilly and it's like, motivation automatically goes down a bit. But, otherwise I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Actually, rainy in the UK as well, which shouldn't be a surprise, but it has been gloriously nice for like a week.
It was really nice here yesterday too. Man, what a bummer.
Absolutely. But no, I'm okay. Very busy at the moment. I say I'm always busy, but it seems May I've just gone up to another level by doing really bad planning. So my diary just looks bonkers. I have an average of 3 to 5 meetings per day, every day of this month.
Wow.
And I usually have a very strict rule of only allowing like 2 meetings a week.
Wow. Oh, you bulldozed over that rule.
Yes. Needs must. So we are currently recruiting for new trustees to join the Young Tongues. So it's the month of doing all the interviews, and we had so many amazing applicants that we are doing a lot of interviews. and actually, after every interview, me and Laura look at each other and go like, "This is not getting any easier. This is just getting harder."
Yep.
How are we going to decide? And then on top of that, we also have our first official piece of PPIE work for a research project with King's College. And again, the recruitment is I am recruiting 15 patients to be part of this patient expert group. And that means I have to, interview well over 15 people. And I really didn't think about that when I was doing the planning.
Yeah. That kind of hits you, right? When you're like, oh, right.
Yes, and also it's going live on the 27th of May. That's so it's like, oh my God, I'm on the time pressure now. So yeah, having to squeeze everything in, but it's all good. But yeah, no, other than that, we had a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and I've come back. I want to say well rested, but I'm really not, because we had the Young Tongues big fundraising hike.
Yeah, how did that go?
It was amazing. We had most beautiful, glorious sunshine. It wasn't too hot, but it was nice and warm. It was 10 miles, which was a lot longer than what I suddenly realised. I was like, oh God, it's stretching on. I know. And then, yeah, we had 21 people come together. We had a nice group. I think there were like 7 patients, and then everyone's friends and families coming along. And it was just really nice seeing, all the patients kind of huddled together and walking and chatting with each other. And it's just really, really lovely. And we raised just over $3,500, which is amazing.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yes. Woo. So, yeah, no, very good. And we also, because we got so excited, just announced we're doing it again in 2027. So if you're listening to this and you're in the UK and you fancy spending your bank holiday weekend in Norfolk along the coast, we are doing a 15-mile coastal walk on the 1st of May, 2027. If you can't walk that distance, it's okay, because there are plenty of stops on the way where you can just get the bus back. If you want to bow out early, that's fine as well. You can still be part of the day. And tickets are on sale. We currently have a early bird discount for everyone who likes to commit early, because that helps me with planning. You get 10% off. So go and check out our link tree on Instagram where you can find all the information.
That's exciting. 15 miles. Whew. We're up in the ante.
Yeah. It's I've done this particular one before, and it's really, really beautiful because it's along the coastal path. And Norfolk is relatively flat, although it might have a couple of hills. But yeah,
It'll be really
yeah, all
lovely.
good.
Nothing like the
Yeah.
desert. So
No, nothing. Nothing like Jordan and the desert. But again, it's if anyone needs a bit of inspiration of a thing to do, you can go do that. I've done it. If I can do it, you can do it. Yeah. Right, Steph, what are we talking about today?
I don't know. I been looking on the group, and the passing of Naomi really, was weighing heavily on me. And trigger warning, I know that's a heavy topic for people, but hearing somebody that has been here since the beginning, like me, like before me, she was, you guys met over there, and I it was a shocker.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, for anyone who didn't know or doesn't know the context, Naomi was from the UK, and actually, she was the first young tongue cancer patient I had contact with when I was trying to make a treatment decision whether to have radiation or not. And it actually was Naomi and her sidekick, Helen. They kind of came as a double package. And both of them had tongue cancer. They didn't know each other beforehand, but both very lovely, lovely ladies who live in the UK and were able to give me some insight of their experience to help me make a decision. And then obviously when we started Young Tongues, they were there from the very beginning. They've always been a big supporter. They've always been very active on the Young Tongues WhatsApp group and Facebook groups in the early days. And I think what's made it especially difficult for people was that Naomi didn't actually share when she had her recurrence. And I personally, I must admit, I kind of forgot about that. So the small circle of us knew it was coming. But obviously the wider community wouldn't have known that anything was afoot. So yeah, but at the same time, I really understand the extra trigger because Naomi's recurrence didn't happen within the first couple of years of treatment. It actually happened 5 years after. And I think for many of us that is particularly worrying because we start to let our guard down. We start to relax a bit. I mean, we always have the underlying worry, but we start to kind of relax a bit and think, okay, statistically speaking, this should be it. And then to hear someone in your community have a recurrence that late is extra shocking.
Absolutely. It's a reminder, I know for me personally, when I read that, my first thought was, oh no, like it's always upsetting to see anybody, but to see somebody that you knew and interacted with fairly regularly at some point is much more, it hits home a bit more. And I was already in kind of a mood. So reading it, I was like, and I did what, like what I'm sure a lot of people did. I was friends with Naomi on Facebook. So I like went back through and I'm like, what did I miss? Like, and you're right, she didn't really talk about it. So, I was trying to figure it out. And I think one of the first things that went through my mind when I was spiraling was, what's even the point? Like, why do I even have any hope at this point? Like, if people can have this happen later. And obviously, that is a very dark thought and a very dark place to be. But I bring it up because I'm sure other people have had similar thoughts. And, I think we need to normalize that a bit. That it's okay to have those types of thoughts. They're very normal, as long as we don't fixate on them and stay there and make that our, new North Star, because that's a terrible North Star.
Absolutely.
But it is,
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, even though we all knew it was coming, it hits pretty hard, especially as we did that hike on Saturday. Naomi was meant to come and meet us for lunch. at our stopping point, and then had to cancel because she wasn't well enough, obviously not knowing that she was going to pass within those 24 hours. So I think, and also the small group that was there, quite a lot of us knew her quite closely, and we actually even talked about her and sort of kind of wondered how she was getting on. So that was hard. But also when I was texting with Helen after, I kind of said to her, how are you keeping up and how are you, how are you coping? And she then asked me the same question, which I always find way harder to answer because I'm like, oh, yeah, how am I doing? And I said, obviously, I'm really sad about Naomi, but I'm also a little bit sad for myself. And I remember the vivid feelings that I felt when I found out that Naomi had a recurrence that didn't look like it was curable. And I also felt that same worry of, like, what's stopping it coming back for me? And I think we all feel that. And like you said, we kind of need to normalise that. And that's one of, I think I'm a bit in a unique position because I've kind of made time cancel my 24/7 with the job that I do and having my own personal experience. And I think it was really important for myself and my mental health a couple of years ago to kind of make peace with the fact that this cancer could come back at any point. And that's just a fact of life. And that I can't fixate on it coming, but that I have to kind of be prepared that it might. And that I need to focus really on what do I want to do with my time? How do I want to use my days whilst I am healthy? Because it could also be not cancer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're as morbid as it is. And I think part of this is, especially in our culture, we don't normalize death in general. We don't talk about it. We act like it's this stigmatized thing, but it's the one thing we all have in common, right? And
we are all gonna die. Yep. That's the only thing that's certain about life.
Yep. You don't even have to pay taxes if you don't want to. Like, there's probably ways to evade it. I am not saying that you should do that. But, and we spend so much time and effort and money and resources on trying to delay or even pretend that the inevitable is not going to happen, that we all that time we could be spending building acceptance. And like you said, it's like, if you plan a day at the park, not to, make light of it, but to make a metaphor, and you think it might rain, if you focus on the fact that it's going to rain, you're going to have a horrible day. Your whole day is going to suck. You're just going to be thinking about the rain, worrying about the rain. And meanwhile, it's been sunny the whole time, but you're so fixated on the fact that it might rain, or you just don't even go because you're like, well, what's the point? It might rain. Or you could say, well, it might rain, or it's probably going to rain. I'm going to bring an umbrella, and I'm going to have this plan. And if it does, then I have this available to me. And then still enjoy the time you have and figure it out. And, that's kind of how I've looked at it as well with life after the diagnosis and treatment. And, every time I get one of those worrying symptoms, it's like, okay, it could be. And I also know that I went through this before. I am strong enough to go through whatever life throws at me. And eventually, if I'm not strong enough, it's going to be the end anyway. Not that I'm not strong enough, but my body is, when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's acceptance, and acceptance doesn't mean you have to like it, but it's acknowledging that it exists. It's a thing. And it's a huge help for me mentally and emotionally to have that, like you said, that sense of inner peace about it, because it allows me to live out my days without that constant cloud over me.
Yeah, and I think there's two ways to look at this as well. It's like, on one hand, having that bit of acceptance, it kind of keeps the deep spiral away a bit. I mean, I still spiral. I still get worried.
God, yeah.
Just need to say that. We all do. We still go, I had an earache and I go,
Yeah,
what is this?
right.
I got a sore mouth. What is this? I got a cold. Why is it not going away quicker? We all have those things. And I think the kind of acceptance and trying to make peace that, okay, this thing could come back. It's a possibility. It's not for certain at all. Like, actually, it's quite unlikely, but it could happen to others. You just don't know. And I guess that's the lottery of life for you. Some people actually win 1 million and others just get a really shitty diagnosis. But the flip side of looking at it is by having these reminders present of recurrence and seeing other people's stories, what I also think it really does is I do think it helps our community to keep vigilant, to take their body and what their body is trying to tell them serious, to embolden them and empower them to bring things up with their healthcare provider, whoever it may be. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I actually have my annual checkup in a matter of hours. There are 2 things I need to bring up. One in terms of long-term effects and one with like, I really want to have a bit more investigation. And I have to admit, I'm already fighting with the thought of going, but they're just going to see me as a bit of a drama queen. And I need to keep reminding myself, it's like, no. I know they will tell me, statistically speaking, it's very unlikely that it will come back. I don't care about the statistics. I want you to check this out. And I want you to get to the bottom of it if it's something I need to worry about or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and it might be nothing. It most likely will be nothing. But I'm not going to take that risk of not finding out anymore.
Well, and that's the thing too. When we say it might be nothing, it's still something to you right now until you have an answer or some sort of peace of mind about it that, okay, this makes sense. This is what it is. Like, it's fine. I had a couple weeks ago, this weird thing happened, not even related to cancer. I was in physical therapy for a sprained ACL, and my ankle on that leg got like really swollen all of a sudden and hurt really bad. And it was an obvious, like, very specific spot. And I was like, is it a bug bite? But I've also had surgery there before, and I have screws and pins under there. I was like, oh my God, am I doing too much work? And it's like, so I went and we wound up getting an x-ray and a CAT scan because they couldn't figure out if it was something underlying and nobody could tell me. And now I'm pretty sure it was a freaking spider bite. So I went through all of that. But, it's better. I would rather, like, part of me is like, I had to spend $300 on a CAT scan, but the opposite would have been somebody not listening to me. And I'm glad that somebody actually paid attention and was like, well, it could be. And, and when we say things like statistically speaking, yeah, that's fine. Well, statistically speaking, I shouldn't have had tongue cancer to begin with when I was 37 years old. So, or, even in statistics, there are still people that make up that smaller group. And there's nothing saying that I can't be part of that. So I think as scary as that can feel, it's also, like you mentioned, a way to kind of empower yourself when you're talking to healthcare providers and others to say, hey, yes, and.
Yeah, totally. There's also, it just comes to mind, there's also a couple of other things I would actually like to address now that I have this opportunity. Because I did receive quite a few messages, like private messages from people after breaking the news of Naomi, and I completely understand why. But I also read some comments and things, and I just want to point some things out, and I think they are really obvious. And I think you'll kind of get what I'm trying to say very quickly, but I think it's really important just to sometimes point out the obvious. So, someone So the Young Tongue, sorry, my brain is trying to organise itself. The Young Tongue started 5 years ago with 12 people. I want you to take that in. 12 people. And we set up the Facebook group and more people came along. And first it was like 50, then 100, then 150. And if I would like to say we got to like 400, 500. And then the kind of rapid increase slowed down a bit and we plateaued a bit. But we still kept growing and we still had new people join. I'd say every week we had a couple of people at least. And it's only really been within the last year or two when I kind of made this my full-time job that the rapid growth has started again. And now we're, well over 1,000, like properly well over 1,000. And I think that's just accelerated and it keeps growing and growing and growing.
I logged in this morning on the patient group on Facebook. It was 1.1 thousand.
Yeah. So, and on average now, I'd say I get 1 or 2 people trying to join daily. Not everyone gets in because I do have some, we have some rules about who can come in or not. Yeah, some guardrails. But nonetheless, so anyhow, the reason I think it has grown has nothing to do with that the thought that there are more young tongue cancer patients in the last 5 years that we existed. I think it's more that we've now ended up with having like a brand for the word, We have a brand, we have a community, we're getting better known, more established. There are more clinicians hearing about us and feeling confident to refer people to us. And also I would like to think that all of the thousands of patients in the group, when they meet another patient, they will go, oh, have you heard about Young Tongues? So it's kind of a natural growth. But I will acknowledge, and we all know that there has definitely been a big increase in young people getting tongue cancer if we compare it with data from 20 years ago. What we don't know, because the papers aren't out there, the data isn't available, is how rapid that increase is, and if that increase has become any steeper or not over the last 5 years, 10 years, shorter time span. Then with that same argument in mind, people have commented and noticed how many recurrences we're having in our community. And again, I just want to point out the maths. There's a lot more people. I personally believe the percentage of people who are experiencing recurrence is stable. But because we're a bigger community, we will have a larger number of individuals who will unfortunately experience a recurrence. So it might feel like it's a lot more frequent, but actually that only reflects the size of our community. Now, I do acknowledge that I have no data to back that up, but from sort of national health data that's available in terms of, let's say, oral cancer, and it will be all the groups together, not much has shifted. Actually, there's more people that are getting diagnosed with stage 1 than before, but unfortunately also the people being diagnosed with stage 4 remains the same. And with that, the risk of recurrence is greater. Not that, again, that's risk, not totality, because it can happen that someone who's had a stage 1 does get a recurrence after we know someone that applies to. So I know this is like really kind of complicated information, and it feels like such a big, massive sentence to say, but I do think it's really important that we keep reminding ourselves, because that's another thing that can really freak us out. And it happens to me, and I sometimes have to really remind myself of going, oh my God, why is everyone having a recurrence? What's happening? What's going wrong? Actually, it's not that. It's just that our community is so much bigger, and with that, there will be more individuals within that percentile that are having recurrence.
I think along with that too, think about it as, again, it's not that I'm making light of anything, but I am a metaphor person. But like when you go to a restaurant, you're more likely to review it if it was bad, right? So people having poor experiences or people struggling are much more likely to talk about it than people who are doing well, because when you're doing really well, you're not thinking about, oh, let me go post in the Young Tongues about how great my life is. Like, it's just one of those things. So there's like a bias in the data there as well, like the data, but in what we see.
Yeah, in our community, and that is actually such a good point, because again, I mean, and this is kind of a success, right? People come into the Young Tongues when they're at their most vulnerable and they need support. They get through their diagnosis and their treatment, and then eventually they fade out. They will pop their head in now and again to go and say hi or ask a question about a long-term effect. But in general, they go back to living their life. And that is great. But it does mean for all of us who are in the community 24/7, we don't hear those success stories. So if you're listening to this and you are a success story and you're in the Young Tongues, use this as a inspiration pad and go in and just share about what your life is like X amount of years after finishing treatment, because I really think it helps. I think it really helps those who are in the midst of their first time treatment. But I think it also really helps anyone who's had a recurrence and is now on the other side of that. You know, we do have stories of people who've had recurrences and they are NED, right? They are healed. They are, whatever you want to call it, that they're not living with cancer. So that happens as well. Not everyone ends up having a life-limiting cancer. Of course, when it does happen, it happens too often. So I do really think that is valuable. And also, I want to say and make this very clear, I really appreciate it and I'm really open to anyone sharing anything at any time. So I don't want someone with a recurrence thinking, oh, I shouldn't post as much. No, not at all. Like, we're here for
all of it.
to support you. We're for all of it to the very end, right? And I've had a very interesting, and you were part of it, Steph. I asked for a bit of feedback on our patient group. So we, a year or so ago, but maybe more than a year ago, I set up the Young Tongues Lifers group with the best intention. I had a bit of feedback from someone who was living with incurable cancer and they felt even more isolated because they had access to this lovely community and were getting supported. And now they didn't want to tell people they had a... They told people they had a recurrence, but they didn't want to tell them that it was life-limiting because they didn't want to have a negative impact on other people, which is, lovely, but completely unnecessary because that's what we're here for. And also they felt like people just started to kind of disappear because they didn't know what to say and how to engage, which is really sad. And actually, I understand it because I sometimes don't have the words and I live in this all the time. I sometimes sit there and think, I really want to text Molly, but I don't know what to say to her because I know she's having a really shit time. So I can't go, how are you, mate? Because I know it's going to be fucking awful. So I go okay, what else is happening in the world? What music does she listen to? And I just try something else. But not everyone has that within their wheelhouse, and I understand that. Anyhow, gone completely off on a tangent. The point I was going to make, I asked for a bit of feedback if this Young Tongues Lifer group actually was doing what it was meant to design, because it's kind of been dormant. No one's really been posting in it. You also have this really awkward thing there. You don't know who's still about and who isn't. Does it become a bit of a graveyard, which is awful? And I got feedback from both Molly and Tay, which were really insightful and really helpful. And basically, the Young Tongues Lifers is gone. As soon as I get to it on my admin list, it will be retired, archived. We'll archive it because the information that's in there we'll want to put in the hub and stuff. But we'll take a slightly different direction. And I really liked your input into that discussion as well, of kind of normalizing the fact that, you know what, in some cases, cancer is life-limiting. And it's really important that we record all the different experiences that people have who are going through that journey for the next lot of people.
Okay.
Because, you know, I know from Molly, and I hope, Molly, if you're listening to this, this is an invite to come back onto the podcast. But I know that there's a real frustration of not finding enough real, practical, tangible information about going through clinical trials, having different types of drugs, side effects, all of that, and also the planning, but that comes with end of life as well, and the mental health of all of it.
It's a lot. It's so much. And I think it's so valuable, like you said, to have that resource from people with lived experience who can say, this worked for me, this didn't work for me. And, you know, people who are open to talking about it. Because even within our separate healthcare systems, and even in the States, it varies by state what's available. So there's just so many moving parts. So having one central place where people can come together and, you know, kind of find that information is a huge, huge value for anybody.
Yeah, and obviously at the moment it's all completely disorganized.
Well, I mean,
in a Facebook group, but we're working on that. We're getting
it's
our
a future site. It's
coming. It's in the pipeline. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just having I kind of feel like we've rattled through quite a lot of themes. So kind of looking back and looking at what's happened this weekend. How do you feel within yourself in terms of moving forward?
I think for me, I am somebody who, right before I was diagnosed, which is so ironic, I had like this moment of, I need to get my mental and emotional self together, right? So I started reading books by Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun in the US, and lovely. Oh my gosh, her books are great. If you want stuff on like acceptance and letting go and things like that. And she brings so much humor to it too, which I love. And I read the book by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, the Book of Joy, the Book of Happiness. I'm completely butchering those titles, but anyway. And then I was diagnosed and I had to put all that to the test. Like, oh, look, here's all this stuff that I've learned. And I completely failed, as we all do, over and over again, because that's life, right? We're constantly failing and learning and moving forward. And I think that's what I remind myself every time I have a setback or a moment where I don't respond or react or do whatever the way I want to or the way that is healthy for me. I sit with it and I look at it and I, you know, like a little scientist, I study, okay, this is what my response was. That is completely normal. And this is how I want to feel. And I look at that and how do I get there? And it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable because sometimes it feels, there's just so many feelings. But I know at the end of the day that my goal is to continue growth, continue moving forward, to be the best that I can be. And in order to do that, I have to do the uncomfortable stuff. So that's what I've been doing. I sat with it. I let myself cry. I went out and on Monday, I laid in the hammock and I said, you know what? Today is a day that I need to stop everything I'm doing and just rest. So I laid in the hammock. I fell asleep in the hammock, which was glorious. And I let myself have that reset. And then yesterday, when things were still kind of going crazy, I laughed. Like, I literally, so Monday was shit. And then Tuesday, you know, because the whole thing with Naomi's passing and everything, that was like the icing on the shit cake, right? And then Tuesday, I was like, okay, it's a new day. And then I go to take a shower and I'm standing butt naked in my bathroom and the shower door falls out. And I was like, so I just started laughing. I started cracking up. And I was like, this could go two ways. Like, I'm literally thinking this. I could crawl back into bed and not want to face today, which would be acceptable, but I already did that yesterday. And I don't want that. That's not what my future self wants. That's not going to help me get to where I want to be. So I pulled myself together, I picked it up, and I fixed it. And I was like, I feel really empowered. Look at me now. Took my shower and went about the day. And it actually made me feel better. And I was really proud of myself for that because it was hard. It sucked. I didn't want to do all that. And that's what I do. I that's how I get through these moments of, because I spiral a lot. I have the moments where I'm just like, why am I here? What is life? Like, all the thoughts, right? And then I I just find those little glimmers where I can and forge that path forward.
Yeah. I'm so similar. Like I have little rituals. So one of the questions I actually was asked was like, how do you cope with it, Barbara? And I do get that question quite a lot, especially when it comes to breaking bad news to the community. And we're very lucky that everyone's very respectful and they actually get in touch with me to inform me, and then we kind of see how we make an announcement. And this time, because Helen and Kate were so close to Naomi, it made completely sense for them to lead on that and for me just to kind of give a little bit of young tongues support in terms of the text and everything. But sometimes I don't have that, and I have to do quite a lot of research on the person, because I don't want to just focus on the tongue cancer aspect of someone's life. I want to find out, were they a parent? Did they have a career? Did they have a hobby, something they really loved, just to kind of honour their personality beyond the tongue cancer diagnosis. So yeah, in terms of how I cope, quite often I cry, and I allow myself to cry and feel sad. I then, in good time, start writing the breaking the news to the community. I have a picture that goes along with that, and I try and take good care. And I always try to have another message alongside it about supporting each other through this, and also the value of what this community has meant to the person who's passed. Because I know you can get in a really negative spiral and think, why am I even part of this, Young Tongues, if it's all bad news all the time? But actually, it really isn't, because the fact that you've supported a person is such a big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I always try and have a little bit of light in there as well, and remind people of why we do this. And actually, I do truly believe feeling the pain and the sadness is actually a privilege, because it means you care.
Yes.
And it means that you have given it your all. And that's what life is about. And I also understand that there's some people who just aren't like that, and they're very analytical about it, and that's cool as well, each to their own. So once that is posted, I kind of take a moment for myself where I think about this person and either have another cry, but then I put it to a side. I say, okay, this has happened, and now I need to use the energy of either sadness, the anger, whatever it may be, and put it into action. And I go back to work, or I go to the pub, one or the other.
Yeah, I think that's a stellar plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, because life goes on, and in a way, we are all incredibly privileged to have time.
Yep.
It's the thing you can't buy. We've got time, and what you do with your time is really up to you. You can go and spend it, in really great ways.
Yeah.
Like going to the pub with your friends, or spending time with your family, doing stuff with your kids, doing work that you love. I mean, I'm super privileged in that point of view, but it's really up to you what you do with it. And I understand it's not easy when you're in pain, when you're living through stuff that's tough. It's shit.
It can be completely overpowering at times. I think for me, and I still haven't read it yet, but Elie Wiesel's book, I that's like next on my list, about his experiences in concentration camp and how he made the experience better for himself in a way, like, or people, there's been prisoners of war who have written the same things, like the people who had the sad or, negative feelings about the future, who didn't have hope, because it can be painful to have hope. It's vulnerable to have hope. It is so vulnerable. It is opening your chest and saying, I know I could get hurt and I'm going to move forward anyway. But, or, and those people, the people that allow that hope in, even in the worst of circumstances, are the people who wind up doing better, living longer, having better quality of life. And it's hard. Like, I'm not saying it's not hard at all. It is really freaking hard. And it's an option. And it's one of those things. It's like learning to balance, right? Like, this is a shitty disease. I'm going through a shitty time. I feel like shit. And I'm lucky that I'm alive. I'm lucky that I'm here. I'm happy that I have my family and my friends, like finding that gratitude and all of those things. That's one thing I do every day is gratitude practice. And at first I thought it was completely dumb. And then I kept doing it and I was like, oh damn, this actually worked.
Yeah, I used to have a gratitude diary. I haven't used it in a really long time, and maybe I should take that back out. And it was literally as easy as writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, and they can be really tiny things, and they can be really big things. And actually, once you've worked through the big things, you sort of go, you have to think a bit more, and then you suddenly find the small things, and you go, oh my god, there's loads of them.
Yep.
So yeah,
Even
no,
just
it's really cool.
for me, it's like seeing a cardinal outside today. I was grateful for that, like seeing that pop of red among the green, like, but I'm also a very like artsy like person, so I am very into all of that. And obviously not everybody is that way, but yeah, it's a huge, huge help for me. But yeah, just finding that balance.
Absolutely. So, speaking of positivity, before we end out today, I did want to bring something up because, Steph, you did something incredibly positive. And I just need to bring this up. So can you tell everyone, did you do something quite amazing that might have been, like on national TV or something?
Oh. Yeah. A couple weeks ago, I was asked, along with a oncologist from the University of Maryland, which is ironically where I was treated, although she was not part of my team because I didn't see medical oncology. We were asked to go up to NBC Studios in New York City to be on NBC News Daily, 2 episodes. And we sat and had about a 5-minute conversation with the anchors about head and neck cancer. They were excited to talk about Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month. We talked about, the symptoms, but and the treatment, especially Dr. Mira. But, I rounded out both episodes with saying how important it is to be an advocate for yourself because, it's so incredibly important, and that kind of ties back to everything that we've been talking about today too. Is don't let people tell you what statistic you are. Like if something feels wrong, if something if something feels off, it's important to say something about it. But yeah, I did that. And that was a really cool experience. If once I get the official links, I will absolutely share them on social media. I'm not allowed to share the links that I have. But I was allowed to show my family, which was cool. My son was like, I want to be on TV. And he was so excited because they showed pictures of him like when I was in treatment and pre-treatment. And I was like, look, you're on TV too. So yeah, that was a really cool thing. And I am so happy to see that head and neck cancer, especially oral and oral tongue cancer, is getting the attention it deserves, because for too long, it's been one of those cancers that people just don't think about. I mean, when I was diagnosed, I was like, the hell is tongue cancer? Like, who gets tongue cancer? Wait, I don't look like that guy. Why do I have tongue cancer? Like, so to see that and the fact that they brought on somebody who is not the typical person you would think of to have tongue cancer, I think is very important and very powerful. From the metrics I saw, it was viewed by over 1 million people. So hopefully, it brought about the awareness. And for people who have been through any type of head and neck cancer, I hope they felt good that it was brought up, and I hope they felt seen.
Amazing. And I hope we get to see those clips at some point, and we can put them out there. But I just want to say, Steph, I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I've only seen photos, but I know that you would have done an amazing job, and I'm so proud of you and so chuffed for you that you got this opportunity. And I hope many more come your way.
Thank you.
On that note, I think we will say thank you so much for listening this week. We will be back next week with another episode. I can't tell you who it is because I don't. I like this video, like, oh, do a preview, and then I realised I can't because I don't know in which order they will appear. But we have many, many interesting guests, experts, patients, and panel. More panel conversations
Yay!
coming your way. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.